Relatively recently, I made the unintentional discovery that my wife had been unfaithful for the past 20 years through the acquaintance of my wife. The decision to end our marriage was mine. We have been married for 20 years, and our adventure together began when we were high school sweethearts. My wife, who is 44 years old, and I, who am 43 years old, have been married. I was a junior at the time, while she was a senior. While she was in her first 2 years of college, I was finishing off my high school education and completing 1 year of community college. During this time, our relationship went through a period of long distance. After some time, we started attending the same college in the same city, and ever since then, we have been inseparable, living together and constructing our lives together. Our wedding took place during the summer after my graduation from college, and on the whole, our marriage has been excellent. Nevertheless, I recently started the divorce process after discovering that she had been associated with other men over those 2 years of great distance being apart from each other. Shortly after the holiday season, we got together with a few of my wife's college buddies for a little get-together. During dinner, we caught up with one another and shared experiences, which resulted in a warm and inviting evening full with laughter and reminiscence. While we were having this talk, my wife made a passing reference to the fact that we had first met while we were in high school. She only mentioned that we had known each other since we were in high school. She did not elaborate on whether or not we were dating at the time. It was a remarkable thing that we met at such a young age, that we had our wild college years, and that we still ended up together, according to one of her former roommates from college. I played along by joking that I wasn't sure whether my wife was as wild as I had been earlier in the conversation. It was at that same moment when the roommate started telling a story. However, my wife immediately interrupted her and stated that she was experiencing discomfort. Because of her unexpected response, my senses began to twitch with mistrust. Because I wanted to make sure that everything was clear, I said that we had actually begun dating while we were in high school and that we had remained together during her entire time in college. A tense silence descended upon the table, and the rest of the evening was marked by a noticeable increase in concentration. As we were leaving, one of her other roommates approached me and recommended that I should have an open and honest chat with my wife about the events that had transpired during her time spent in college. It was impossible for me to shake the unpleasant feeling that I felt when I was driving home from supper. As a result, I inquired about the information that her roommate had offered to her. I was kind bit taken aback when she told me that it wasn't a big problem. I advised her that it was essential for her to be truthful with me, but she dismissed my words once more, stating that she did not consider it to be significant. It was just her dismissive tone that made my suspicions even stronger. I made the decision to take a tough stance once we arrived at our home. After telling her that I would be staying at my brother's house until she was ready to discuss the events that had actually transpired during her time in college, she agreed to my plan. The following day, she arrived, and she was noticeably apprehensive. During her first 2 years of college, she finally acknowledged to having sexual encounters with a number of different males. She made an effort to mitigate the situation by stating that she did not consider it to be a significant issue at the time, because we were separated by able to endure this. I informed her that I was interested in getting a divorce, and that I would begin the paperwork as soon as I could. As I had promised, I took the first step in the process on January 2nd. The fact that she attempted to minimize her acts and disregard my emotions just served to more firmly establish my choice. This wasn't only about the cheating that took place. Over the course of several decades, there had been a series of lies and disrespectful behavior. Despite the fact that I have made a few blunders, her family and the majority of my family are advising me that I should not end my marriage. We have a long history together, and they keep telling me that I should forgive her because everyone makes errors and since we have a long history together. On the other hand, I don't think this is just about a few errors. It concerns a pattern of behavior that extends back over a number of years. The fact that you have been unfaithful to me for 2 years with multiple men is not something I can ignore, regardless of the time it took place. The fact that she continued to maintain ties with these individuals right in front of me, even going so far as to introduce them as friends, is an unforgivable degree of disrespect. Both of our children are now essentially adults, having reached the age of 17 and 19, and I believe they will comprehend the reasons why I need to dissolve the marriage. It is my hope that they understand that my decision is about maintaining my self-respect and integrity, as they have observed us as a loving relationship. Considering the number of people who are telling me to ignore years of infidelity and decades of falsehoods, I feel as like I am about to lose my mind. No matter where I turn, I am surrounded by voices that urge me to forgive and forget in order to preserve what we have constructed. People tell me that I am being unreasonable and that I ought to concentrate on the happy times and the life that we have spent together. However, how can I do that when every memory is now contaminated by the knowledge that she has betrayed me for so long? Cheating is not the only thing that is involved. The lie is the culprit, for the falsehoods, the continuation of friendships with the individuals with whom she had cheated. What is the procedure for me to trust her once more? In light of what she has done, how am I supposed to continue to look at her in the same manner? As well as the manner in which she disregarded my emotions when I confronted her. I am constantly questioning myself, wondering if I am being very harsh or if I am overreacting to the situation. After that, however, I am reminded of the agony I had when she admitted to having affairs. The feelings of rage and sense of betrayal that swept over me. As I think back on those nights, I can't help but wonder how she could possibly introduce me to such men. I was curious about how she managed to keep those friendships without feeling any remorse. It's not something that I can easily come to terms with. Our relationship has been irreparably damaged as a result of a fundamental breach of trust. Am I making a mistake by leaving? I don't believe that to be the case. I have the impression that I am competing for my dignity, for the sake of my right to not be misled. I would want not to be treated with such great disdain. It has nothing to do with vengeance or harboring resentment. At the same time, it is necessary to recognize that certain boundaries, once passed, cannot be redrawn. The reason I am writing this is because my wife and a couple of her friends have been telling me that it is usual to sleep with other people while you are in a long-distance relationship, and that I am the odd one out since I do not do the same thing. I had the impression that I was being gaslit, and I required the viewpoint of an outsider, due to the fact that we reside in a state that requires a waiting period before a divorce can be finalized. I believed that it would be prudent to have some information before things are predetermined. As a result of hearing these statements, I have seen that there are a few individuals who concur with the notion that it is typical for people in long-distance relationships to sleep around, but they appear to be in the minority. We were able to catch up with each other on a few of weekends every month during those 2 years of college. Her college was around 3 hours distant from where I lived. However, despite the fact that it was a significant distance, it was not as if we were separated by the entire nation. Nobody went more than a few months without seeing each other. When she was in college, I was introduced to 3 different males, and they were all introduced to me during parties. At these social occasions, these were not official introductions, rather, they were just casual get-togethers. I have no idea if they were aware that we were in a relationship because the subject of me being her boyfriend was never really brought up in conversation. The reason that one of these individuals is still a part of our life is because he married a friend that we both had in college. It is not true that she has been messaging him on the side as a covert contact person. We have both maintained consistent communication with him over the course of several years. Following the revelation that my wife had been unfaithful, I had several conversations with him in order to comprehend his perspective. He admitted to me that he was unaware that we were dating at the time, and he has since excluded my wife from his social media accounts out of respect for me. A number of individuals have questioned the manner in which her college companions were unable to determine the schedule for our wedding. The solution can be found in the manner in which we hosted our wedding celebrations. In Texas, my wife and I held a very intimate ceremony with only our immediate family members present. We eventually made our way back to the East Coast, where we hosted a large celebration for our close friends. During the wedding reception, we did not participate in the customary rituals that involve the couple sharing information about how they first met and their journey together. Due to the fact that we began dating prior to her enrolling in college, her roommates were never able to piece together the connection between us. They appear to be under the impression that we did not begin dating until the year that we both resided in the same city, and that we did not move in together until after that. It is because of this gap in their comprehension that they never questioned the time frame or thought any kind of adultery was taking place. I was willing to see a therapist or make an effort of some kind in order to save the marriage. In all honesty, I have faith that if we put in some effort, we might be able to find a solution to this problem. However, her unwavering insistence that what she did was completely normal, and that I am the one who is exaggerating the situation has been too much for me to bear. Despite the fact that I am being unreasonable, she continues to convince me that it is not uncommon for people in long-distance relationships to have sexual encounters with other people. When I started the paperwork for the divorce, she was the only one who shown any regret or even sought to reconcile with me. The little moment of remorse that she experienced rapidly dissipated, and in the past week she has returned back to her initial position, arguing that she is correct and that I am exaggerating the situation. As a result of this back and forth, I have the impression that I am being gaslit. There is no question in my mind that the activities she took were a significant act of betrayal. On the other hand, my wife and other people have made it clear to me that this is nothing out of the ordinary, and that I am the one who is exaggerating the situation. It is simply adding to my uncertainty and aggravation that she has such a dismissive attitude. Attempts were made to convey the extent of the pain that her adultery caused me. She diminishes my feelings, interpreting them as an exaggerated reaction to something that is not really significant, despite the fact that I had hoped she would get the importance of the situation. It's almost as if she's changing the rules of our relationship and asking me to accept them without questioning them. Having my feelings disregarded on a consistent basis is extremely frustrating. My views and emotions are being altered in such a way that I feel as though I am being manipulated. In addition to her attempts to normalize adultery, her failure to accept the significance of her acts simply serves to increase the chasm that exists between us. It's not just the fact that she cheated on me, it's also the fact that she is unable to comprehend why this is such a huge deal and why I feel so betrayed. I have reached a stage in my life where it is imperative that I safeguard both my mental and emotional health. Continuing to be in a marriage in which my emotions are disregarded and my trust is broken is not something I can do. It is impossible for me to see a way ahead with her, because she does not show any genuine sorrow, and she insists that I am the one who is acting inappropriately. I'm not being overly dramatic. I am advocating for myself and my right to a partnership that is characterized by respect and honesty. It is not going to happen that I get a paternity test until my children specifically request it. There is no question in my mind that they are biologically related to me, and even if a test were to reveal that they are not, it would not alter the attitude that I have toward them. I love them more than anything else, and the fact that my wife has been unfaithful to me for the past 19 years does not change the fact that they are my children. Until the day that I quit breathing, they will always remain my children, regardless of the circumstances. During that time, we were unquestionably in a committed relationship. At the outset, the society surrounding dating was somewhat different 20 or so years ago. Because for the vast majority of people, exclusivity was pretty much the default setting. The concept of casual dating or open relationships, which appears to be increasingly popular in today's society, did not exist in the past. When you were with someone, it was generally accepted that you were the only person in the room with them. Let's see. Prior to her departure for college, we engaged in a lengthy and challenging discussion over the maintenance of our relationship despite the distance between us. She was determined about remaining together, despite the fact that the conversation was not an easy one. She went so far as to say that her father would come after me if I began having sexual encounters with other teachers and students at my school. That joke had a great deal of significance. It was clear that she was very concerned about the importance of us remaining committed to each other. The event that occurred with my senior prom was yet another significant indicator. Due to the fact that she was away at college, she was unable to attend, and when I proposed that she go with a female friend who was not romantically involved, she became quite furious. Not only did her response demonstrate how much she valued our connection, but it also reaffirmed the notion that we were the only ones who were together. As a result of my desire to avoid causing her any emotional distress, I decided to forego my prom and instead spend the evening hanging out with her. When all of these factors were taken into consideration, together with the nature of our relationship prior. Nevertheless, even at that very moment, it was abundantly evident that her worry was more about the outcomes than it was about how I was feeling. The absence of regret was glaringly obvious. After I had already begun the paperwork and informed her that I had a lawyer, she did not try to rectify things or propose methods that we could work through this until I had already indicated that I had a lawyer. Our relationship was not something that needed to be repaired. It was about preventing further damage. With her statement, I was more convinced that she does not comprehend the extent of the betrayal she has committed. The act of infidelity itself is not the only issue at hand. On the other hand, regarding her persistent disdain for my sentiments and our marriage, I had no alternative but to proceed with the divorce because of her dismissive attitude, which was especially concerning in light of the fact that the matter was of such a severe nature. I have faith that we will be able to successfully co-parent. Our children are now older, and I have been putting money aside for their post-high school and college expenditures for a number of years. Issues pertaining to child custody and finances should not be a significant barrier. Both of us have secure financial situations and are able to make a profit. I am willing to participate in therapy if she is willing to do so. It seems that at this stage, rather than focusing on preserving our marriage, we should be more concerned with becoming effective co-parents and finding closure. Taking action to move forward with the split is something I've done. For the purpose of separating the documents, I engaged a lawyer who drafted a letter of intent and then mailed it to her via certified mail. This is not a court-approved divorce document that has been submitted to the state. This is more of a preliminary step, guaranteeing that she will have the opportunity to retain her own attorney in the event that she decides to contest it. It is likely that the actual procedure of getting a divorce will take several months. At the moment, I have not completely moved out. I am now residing at my brother's residence while I am in the process of determining a more permanent living arrangement. As far as the time frame is concerned, the meal that she had with her friends took place on the 26th. I decided to go to my brother's place that night in order to cool off and provide her with some space to think about things. Over the course of the subsequent 4 or 5 days, we engaged in a number of talks, and it became very evident that she did not believe that she had committed any wrongdoing. It is possible that I would have reconsidered my decision and waited if she had demonstrated any guilt, regret, or even a basic consideration for my sentiments. However, I had no choice but to accept her disdainful attitude. As a result, I was able to locate a divorce attorney, and together we swiftly completed the normal intent to separate paperwork, which were then sent out on the same day. In spite of the fact that we are not legally divorced at this time, I am unsure whether or not my state has a legal idea of separation that is officially recognized. Despite this, I have made it quite obvious that this procedure is currently taking place, and I have initiated the preliminary measures that are required to proceed. Most recent update 1. This is what I found out about her time spent in college, so let's get started. It became clear. Following a number of counseling sessions with my wife and interviews with 2 of her old roommates, that her roommates had felt that something was wrong when she was in college. According to what they said, the situation appeared to be strange and most likely involved cheating. They never felt the need to bring it up, because my wife had told them that we both had some crazy moments in college, but that we had worked things out before we were married, so they never even thought about it. When my roommate pulled me aside over dinner, she was particularly concerned with the fact that my wife had obviously never shared this with me, and that she believed I ought to know about it. As it turns out, the introductions that she made to some of these individuals were not done on purpose. This pertains to the men that she was associated with. It turned out that one of the men she had sexual relations with actually ended up dating and subsequently married one of our college classmates who we both knew. This was the individual with whom she maintained communication. In the beginning of our counseling sessions, my wife attempted to place responsibility on me, implying that I was the one who had forced her into those situations. Having said that, she has later admitted that it was a mistake. I wanted to experience college parties because I had missed out on them throughout my time in high school and community college. When I visited her during college, she frequently arranged for us to do things like hang out alone or stay in her room. However, I wanted to go to college parties. However, she felt that she couldn't avoid seeing the males she had been with because they were frequently present at these parties. She didn't anticipate that I would meet them. Despite the fact that I continue to believe that it is extremely insulting, I believe that it is somewhat less heinous than if she had purposefully paraded me in front of them. The entire scenario has been a convoluted web of omissions and half-truths, which makes it much more challenging to comprehend what has transpired. My wife was able to keep up this appearance for a number of years, despite the fact that her friends had suspicions but did not intervene. The most of our sessions in therapy have been devoted to discussing the reasons why I consider her adultery to be a huge betrayal, while she does not. At first, she attempted to justify her conduct by claiming that none of these men were actively involved in a romantic connection with her. A significant number of them were either one-night stands or friends with benefits. These interactions, in her opinion, did not constitute a significant event because they did not include romantic relationships. I am not the one who made these statements. From my point of view, the manner in which the relationships were structured was immaterial. The notion that such behavior was appropriate was never accepted by us. Quite the contrary, she had aggressively worked to dissuade me from doing the same thing. In addition to adding to my feeling of betrayal, the double standard was glaringly obvious. As we proceeded with our investigation of this matter over the course of 2 sessions of therapy, and after she conferred with a few of her close friends, my wife started to have a different perspective on the matter. The fact that she now admits that her acts were a violation of our trust and the basis of our partnership is a significant development. This new knowledge that we all have in common has made it possible for us to talk about the situation in a more open and honest manner, allowing us to transition from furious debates to fruitful conversations. Because of this change in our relationship, I have some optimism regarding our future together as co-parents. Despite the fact that the possibility of preserving our marriage appears to be out of reach, the ability to communicate openly and honestly about our history can assist us in developing a more mutually beneficial relationship in the future. Having this knowledge is essential for ensuring the health and happiness of our children, as well as successfully navigating the intricacies of co-parenting. I am completely dedicated to seeking a divorce, and these are the reasons why. 2 significant events transpired, both of which made it quite evident that I needed to terminate the marriage. To begin, approximately 10 years ago, we experienced a difficult phase in which we spent almost 2 years without maintaining any kind of intimacy with one another. The monotony of our physical relationship was something that she had expressed on multiple occasions. I made an effort to inject some enthusiasm into the situation. Some little role-playing and objects that you may get in a novelty store are all that is involved. Nothing crazy. On the other hand, it turned out that she was obsessed on some personal experiences from her time spent in college, incidents that she does not feel comfortable talking about. Despite the fact that she wanted me to recreate those experiences. The fact that I did so caused her to feel embarrassed and guilty, because it brought to mind other men that she had been with in the past. In spite of the fact that she maintains that these events never had any significance, the fact that they continue to have an impact on our marriage is evidence that they were more significant than she is prepared to recognize. Second, she admitted that she had flirted with her coworkers while she was on business trips since the completion of the pandemic. The situation did escalate to the point that she went on a date with one of her male coworkers, despite the fact that she maintained that there was no physical contact between them. In my opinion, that was the deciding factor in the decision. Any remaining faith that I had was completely destroyed by these revelations. It was the first issue that made me realize that despite her assertions to the contrary, our present is still being haunted by our prior experiences. As a result of the second problem, it became very evident that she was willing to violate boundaries once more, despite everything that we had gone through. The combination of these two elements rendered it impossible for me to see any reason to believe that our marriage could be saved. The news that we are going through a divorce has been communicated to our children. We explained to them that it was due to some poor choices that we made while we were in college, choices that we have been unable to move on from. In the course of the talk, my daughter, who is currently attending college and is 19 years old, brought up the question of whether or not I had been unfaithful to my wife while she was away at school. Despite the fact that this inquiry caught my wife off guard, she courageously revealed to our children that she was the one who had cheated on them. Both of us have reached a consensus that we will not disclose any additional information to the children. It is of the utmost importance to shield kids from the more distressing characteristics of our history. In spite of the fact that we are no longer together, I reassured them that we will continue to be absolutely dedicated to being there for them. I would want to underline that we are meeting with a therapist in order to ensure that we handle the divorce in the most beneficial manner for the well-being of our family. In addition, I made it abundantly plain to the children that they have my complete backing in the event that they ever feel the need to discuss the matter, whether it be with us or with a therapist themselves. I want children to be aware that they are free to communicate their emotions and ask for assistance without any reservations. It is of the utmost importance that they comprehend that the emotional well-being of both my partner and I is of the utmost importance. Additionally, as a family, we are doing everything in our power to help each other get through this challenging time. We have started having conversations with a mediator in order to determine the most effective method to move forward with the divorce. In the absence of any significant changes, it appears that we are able to part ways amicably. The custody of our children is not a major concern for either of us because we are both financially secure. We do not have any large debts, and our children are older. Even though the previous several months have been challenging, I am making it through. I am truly grateful that my most recent post received such a large amount of attention. As a result, my sentiments were validated, and I was motivated to pursue treatment with my wife. To tell you the truth, my daughter, who is 19 years old, has experienced her fair share of challenging relationships. She has been hurt by lovers, who have either cheated on her or abruptly turned their backs on her in favor of another person. In light of the fact that she has had previous encounters with guys who were not trustworthy, it is not surprising that her initial reaction might be that I was the one who cheated on her. The fact that I was the one who left the house is something that she believes is adding fuel to her fire. The fact that she witnessed her father leaving the house where they had been living could have been interpreted by her as an admission of guilt or misconduct. Therefore, it is not surprising that her experiences have influenced her perspective, which has made it simpler for her to accept the possibility that I am to blame. My wife made it abundantly apparent that she was the one who was being unfaithful when the topic of infidelity was brought up. When I'm being completely honest, I'm not very worried about the story being told here. As far as I can tell, my wife has not told our children anything that may be considered unfavorable about me. Furthermore, taking into consideration her recent admissions of flirting and adultery, as well as her preparedness to file for a joint, amicable divorce after only 6 weeks and 3 counseling sessions, it appears that she was more prepared to move on than I was. It is somewhat painful to observe that she is more prepared to walk away from a marriage that has lasted for 20 years than I am, despite the fact that this readiness on her part makes the technical parts of the divorce go more smoothly. I have a good feeling about the fact that she is already hunting for a new mate. During our appointment with the equitable divorce mediator, she made it clear that we are still married until the divorce is finalized, and she warned us that any adultery that occurs prior to that date could put our amicable settlement in jeopardy. Given the fact that our divorce is based on infidelity, this phrase struck me as being somewhat ironic about the situation. Despite this, my soon-to-be ex was noticeably irritated when this subject was brought up on the conversation. Furthermore, I have a hunch that the fact that I am currently residing in the guest room, which is my present living position, may be preventing her from moving on as quickly as she would like. When all is said and done, I am doing all in my power to accept the fact that our marriage has come to an end. As a means of coping with my situation, I have started going to therapy sessions on my own in addition to our appointments as a pair. When I think about the possibility of her running into the coworker she only dated once more, I mentally prepare myself for the possibility. Despite this, I am holding out hope that I will be able to relocate to a different location and move out before the divorce is official. It is anticipated that we will get divorced by the summer if all goes according to plan with the mediator. In the future, I will have my own place, and she will be free to date whoever she pleases. Our divorce has been finalized, and everything is now official. My wife and I have reached this point. With only a few minor disputes, we were able to successfully complete an amicable and uncontested divorce. During the course of the mediation process, our attorneys worked together to design the plan, and a court gave his approval to it a few weeks ago. In the end, the procedure of getting a divorce was very little complicated. Because of the deterioration of their relationship with my ex-wife, our 17-year-old child was adamant on staying with me. This was the only substantial issue that arose from this situation. In the beginning, my wife was resistant, getting ready to contest the divorce that was not disputed. On the other hand, our son made it abundantly plain that she had the option of either allowing him a few months to process and repair their connection, or she could force him to stay with her until he reached 18 and risked never seeing him again. In spite of the fact that I thought my son's position was a little bit harsh, it did cause my wife to soften her stance. The agreement that I would have primary physical custody of him until his birthday later this year was put into action, and we pushed on with it. During this time period, I have consistently urged my son to maintain an openness to the possibility of repairing his relationship with his mother. In spite of the actions she made prior to his birth, she yet showed love and care for him for a period of 17 years. Because I observed that my son was spending more time with my ex-wife as the divorce processes progressed, I have reason to believe that they will finally be able to reconcile their differences. The current period has been difficult for all of us, but I have faith that, with the passage of time, they will be able to heal their relationship and get back together. When it was all said and done, we split our investments and retirement funds equally, 50% each. The house was not to my liking, but it was quite appealing to my wife, so she kept the house and the majority of the furniture that was in it. She took out a mortgage to pay me back for half of the equity and half of the anticipated a replacement value of the furnishings. This was because she wanted to strike a balance between the two circumstances. The vast majority of our other possessions were simple to divide. Both of us kept our cars, she kept hers. In addition, we separated our personal belongings, such as my musical instruments and her hobby equipment, as well as our wardrobe and other personal stuff. We came to an agreement that we would sell anything that was more difficult to divide and then divide the earnings. Thankfully, we had already documented the majority of our costly objects and electronic devices for an insurance rider that we had added to our house insurance policy a few years earlier, which contributed to the quicker execution of this procedure. Personally, I have been experiencing a lot of success recently. The fact that both of my children spend the majority of their time at my residence and that we have managed to keep our relationship strong during the divorce was the primary concern that I had. It brings me relief and gratitude that this connection continues to be strong. I recently relocated to a brand new home that I adore living in, a site that gives the impression of a new beginning. By way of a reference to my midlife crisis, a decision that has provided me a surprising amount of happiness is the one in which I decided to swap in my outdated minivan for a beautiful Lexus LC 550. A woman at my place of employment took the initiative to extend an invitation to me for a coffee date. She is a member of a separate department, which means that we do not work directly together. My communication with her was straightforward, and I explained that I am not yet prepared to date. Being understanding, she politely offered to accept a rain check, indicating that she is willing to go out with me whenever I am ready to do so. The invitation came as a nice and unexpected event. She is quite intelligent, possesses a wonderful sense of humor, and our professional positions are enough dissimilar that there is no awkwardness among us while we are at work. Although my ex-spouse and I continue to participate in couples counseling, the primary goals of our sessions have shifted to bringing closure to our marriage and ensuring that we are able to effectively co-parent. Regardless of the circumstances, these meetings have shown to be quite beneficial in terms of digesting everything and preserving a healthy and positively uplifting environment. On the other hand, they have also confirmed that the decision to divorce was the correct one. The fact that my wife started dating as soon as the divorce process began is something that has been clear to me through our conversations. This is an indication that the love that we had for one another was already weakening. I have a strong suspicion that the coworker she claimed to be was nothing more than a friend, as he even transported her to our most recent meeting. In a surprising turn, acquired independence, keeping myself occupied by assisting my 17-year-old son in getting ready for college in the autumn, and looking forward to a coffee date with a woman who is both intelligent and humorous in a month or two. The process of going through our divorce taught me the importance of being open and honest with one another. When I think about it now, I often wish that we had been more open and honest with each other from the beginning. The lesson is one that I will take with me into all of my future relationships, whether they be romantic or otherwise. My most important takeaway is that I have found the strength inside myself to rebuild and go on with my life. I've begun to feel truly good about myself again, despite the intense pain that I've been experiencing.